Okay, so in the illustrative photography assignment, we're going to really explore and delve into the brush options that are in Photoshop. And we're going to be expanding upon those on the next assignment. So this is really our opportunity to get our feet wet and play around a little bit. You have played with brush already at this point. You have used that to layer mask. So you are aware that you can change the size of your brush, and you can also change the hardness, how fuzzy or not it is. And there are other brushes here, okay? But I would like to bring your attention to the fact that there's a whole other brush palette that's an option, so you can see more options for your brushes in Photoshop. It's important to note here, though, you do need to plug your tablet in before you have opened Photoshop. Otherwise, the pressure sensitivity we're about to talk about will not work. So this little symbol right here, this is what the brush palette looks like. But as always, if you cannot find it, everything's here under Window, and then just click Brushes. So like most Photoshop things, right, there's all these little folders that open up. So this is where we're going to start today and do a little playing around. So under General, we have these 8 main categories. So you have been on round and soft and hard, but they've been just round brush. But I want you to notice the pressure brushes that are underneath here. So we can either have a soft fuzzy brush or a hard brush, but you can actually go back and change that setting even after you've started. So if I choose a pressure brush and then I draw, so let's get a whole lot smaller than that. What happens is the lighter I touch my tablet, the lighter my stroke is, and then as I get harder, as I push harder, I'm going to have a wider path, very much like if you were painting with a paintbrush. I do have my opacity down right now, which is a thing we'll circle back to in a second. So we can play with whatever color. I'm currently on 1 layer. I haven't done any kind of additional layering. On your Illustrative photography, you will have your photograph at the base, and then you will create a new blank layer. Please do not draw directly on your photograph. If I move here to the soft pressure size, now I'm a much fuzzier, see the softer edge happening. And I can make this whole brush wider, but notice if I start with a light path, it's not as big as this. That's just the maximum width that your brush is able to get to. And you really do have to press quite firmly on your tablet for that to happen. Let's go ahead and clear our board for a second and then explore some other things. So we can have pressure control size, which is what we've done so far. Just a note, even if I'm on the hard pressure size or soft for that matter, I can come up here and I can still adjust my hardness. So maybe I would like it to be a hard brush, but I would like to have that little bit of forgiveness, and you can still do that. So it's definitely a softer edge. It's a little more forgiving than if I was at a 100% hard. Okay, that's a little crisper. All right, so just a matter of preference. So let's go ahead and clear that and look at one more spot. So we can also have the pressure control the opacity. Okay, so if I have, so I'm at 100% opacity here. If I start with a light pressure on my brush, it's going to be a light gray, and then as I push darker, it gets harder or more and more opaque, all the way to 100, which is a fun approach as well. I can either be soft about that or hard, and again, just like when I was on the pressure, I can change the hardness here, and so if you want it to be somewhere in the middle, that's an option as well. Okay. Our last 2 options are opacity and flow, and it's a bit like having paint on a brush. Okay, so as you are drawing, it's going to darken, but it's putting more pigment as I'm pushing harder. It can be a really fun technique happening there. And again, if I'm harder with my edge, definitely a different kind of feel. And then you can have any kind of range in the middle of that. On this assignment, I am looking for evidence that you have explored in this palette. Okay, if all of your brush strokes are identical and you have not explored any of the pressure settings and you are just hanging out in a regular round and all of your brush strokes are the same size and the same opacity, and this is all that I'm seeing on your document, then you are not doing your job. So please make sure that you are really exploring through here and getting a handle of the different tools. We're not going to cover it on this particular assignment, but if you feel comfortable here, by all means start going and poking around at some of the other options that are further down here.